All right, it's time to celebrate Boston's achievements during this past regular season as the NHL Awards go tonight, and four guys are up for some major hardware. I'm thinking three of them are going to win. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about what Linus Ullmark and Jim Montgomery were saying at the media availability on Sunday, why Patrice Bergeron's not in attendance, and more on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Let's get into it, friends.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be. Today is Monday, June 26th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming off a weekend that I spent camping with our boys, a cousin, my brother-in-law. Great times around the fire, swimming, and was keeping up on, of course, all the rumors and reports going around the NHL. Everybody now is gathered in Nashville for the NHL Awards tonight, as well as the NHL Draft, which will take place later this week. And Jim Montgomery, Linus Ullmark were in Nashville yesterday. I'm going to talk about what they had to say later in the podcast, but we're going to start by looking at the Bruins who are up for NHL awards and who I think is going to win. First up, I should mention Patrice Bergeron was not in attendance or will not be in attendance at the NHL Awards. He is up for his record continuing sixth Selke trophy. Bergeron up against Nico Hischier of the New Jersey Devils and Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hands down, he should win this award. Now, the reason he's not there, I don't believe it's because he is retiring or he's turned his back on hockey. Quite simply, his wife is with child, perhaps unable to travel. He doesn't want to leave her and their other two children, even to get handed this sixth Selke trophy. Completely understandable. And that's probably the reason why David Pastrnak was not at the NHL media availability on Sunday as well. He was, I believe, Kevin Paul DuPont of the Boston Globe said he's arriving today. New child. Again, completely understandable that he would be delayed. Now, Pastrnak is up for two awards. The Hart Trophy, which is given to the NHL regular season MVP, up against Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers and Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers. As good as Pastrnak has been this season, 61 goals, career highs in points. Let's be honest, it's probably McDavid's trophy to win. And perhaps you could argue Matthew Tkachuk was more valuable to his team, getting them into the playoffs. It is, of course, a regular season award, but until further notice, I don't see anybody else winning other than Connor McDavid. He's the best player in the world. Pastrnak is also up for the Ted Lindsay Award, which is given annually to the most outstanding player, as voted by fellow members of the NHLPA. Pasternak's up against McDavid, again for this one, and Erik Karlsson of the San Jose Sharks. If I was voting, it would probably go to Karlsson because while McDavid and Pastrnak had unreal seasons, Karlsson over 100 points on a very bad San Jose Sharks team without a lot of help. So I would give it to him. He was just outstanding this season. Now, other Bruins up for awards. I mentioned Patrice Bergeron, Selke against Hischier and Marner. Both those guys are very good two-way forwards, but this has to be Bergeron's to lose, and hopefully they video him in for his acceptance speech. Two other guys up for awards. Linus Ullmark vying for the Vezina Trophy as the best goalie in the NHL. He's up against Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets and Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. Two exceptional goalies, but this has to be Linus Ullmark's trophy. He tied team single season records with 40 wins, a .938 save percentage to go along with a 1.89 goals against average, helped the Bruins to an NHL record 65 wins and 135 points. You know, if you are leading in all of those categories, save percentage, you can quibble that goals against average isn't, the best indicator, but still, he was the best goalie in the NHL this season and should get that award. Sorokin, Hellebuck, two very good goalies, but Ullmark tied for the league lead in wins with Alexander Georgiev. He had the .938 save percentage, which among goalies with at least, 39 appearances was number one, and his goals against average of 1.89, again, tops among goalies with at least 40 or 39 appearances. Philip Gustafsson of the Minnesota Wild was up there. If he had more starts, he probably would be a finalist. So Ullmark winning this award. And then finally, actually, there's two other guys up for awards. One, Jim Montgomery, given annually to the coach in the NHL who has contributed the most to his team's success. Jack Adams Award. He's up against Dave Hackstall of the Seattle Kraken, as best he makes an appearance. What a best. And Lindy Ruff of the New Jersey Devils. Again, no disrespect to either of those guys, but Montgomery, first year behind the bench with the Boston Bruins, shattered regular season records. He's got to win that award. Now, it should be noted, of course, that there is sometimes a correlation between Vezina and Jack Adams. If you have that otherworldly goaltending, usually gives the coach a bump. But to Montgomery's credit, in the regular season at least, he was pretty good at balancing out those starts between Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, pushed the right buttons, got the defense more involved, had great depth, and that was the reason why he will win the Jack Adams. And that's a testament to Don Sweeney, who likely will win the GM of the Year award. This is voted by fellow GMs, and his work putting together this team, getting Bergeron and Krejci back in the mix, adding Hathaway, Orlov, Tyler Bertuzzi. I don't know why Bill Zito is in there. He didn't really do much during the regular season. He, of course, did pull off that trade for Matthew Tkachuk last summer, so that's a huge win. And Jim Nill, he was successful as well. Built a great Stars team, but this should be Sweeney's award as well as Bessie, just right here in the screen. So I'm picking Ullmark, Bergeron to win the player awards, Montgomery and Sweeney to win their respective awards, but unfortunately, the competition for David Pastrnak is pretty steep, and I don't see him winning. Those are my official predictions, and coming up next, we're going to discuss what Linus Ullmark was saying during his media availability, even going as far as to admit the possibility that he could be moved this summer. But before we get into that, a quick word about today's sponsor, which is our friends over at eBay Motors. Now, eBay Motors is the best place to go for all the parts you need for your vehicle. Just like a championship team, it's about each player being a perfect fit. And for your vehicle, you need parts that fit. All you have to do is head to eBay Motors and look for the green check after putting in all your vehicle's information, and you know that it will be a perfect fit. They also have a guaranteed fit where you will get your money back if the part isn't the right fit. That is available only to U.S. customers. There are some exclusions that do apply. But again, just go to eBay Motors, fill in your vehicle's specs, look for the green check to know that the part will fit right, and you will be back on the road in no time. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your day every single day. Now, look, I know it's been a rough go since the Bruins lost in the first round, but I do appreciate all the support throughout the month of June. The Bruins haven't played in almost 2 months, still getting people listening, which is a testament to how much people love this team. Now, after today's show, be sure to check out Locked On's 2023 mock draft special. The local hosts of the Locked On NHL channels have made their picks, and Gil Martin and Hattie Kalikechi break down every selection over a 3-day mock draft event. Find the episodes on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Linus Ullmark and Jim Montgomery were at the NHL media event in Nashville on Sunday discussing their award nominations and where they're at, following Boston's disappointing loss to the Florida Panthers in the first round. These are all firsts for Ullmark. He went to the All-Star game. Now he's at the NHL Awards. He took a lot of grief for his play in the playoffs, that giveaway in overtime, allowing way too many goals in Game 6. Perhaps he should have been pulled earlier, but he's likely going to be just the third Vezina trophy winner from Sweden, and it's huge for him. Henrik Lundqvist, first ballot Hall of Famer, Pelle Lindbergh, both tremendous goalies, and he is going to join that pantheon of Swedish goalies and also become the latest in a string of, look, we've been so lucky in Boston to have Tim Thomas, then Tuukka Rask, now Linus Ullmark, and Jeremy Swayman. Not a lot of teams get that consistent goaltending for like 2 decades, so soak it in. Don't be so quick to move one of these guys out. Now, Ullmark did say he's very motivated and inspired for next season after the first round loss. He's trying not to dwell on the past. He's had a lot of time to think about what he can improve on, a lot of things to learn from. He says he's a lot wiser, and when he comes in next season and put in the same position, he's going to be a lot more confident when it comes to certain things. Ullmark did acknowledge that there's a possibility, or that it has crossed his mind, whether he or Swayman could be traded. He said, quote, "That's the business part of it. When you have 2 goalies that are so close when it comes to stats, there's going to be some changes, especially, I would say, when Jeremy Swayman is due a contract that's going to be comparable to Ullmark's, or probably $1 million or $500,000 less." He said, quote, "Hopefully, and I think I speak for both of us, we both want to be together and we want to stay in Boston because that's where we've thrived and seen the success we've had. We've just got to see," he continued. "There's a personal side to it and a business side to it. That's just what being a professional hockey player is. It's a lot of ifs, what ifs. Try not to think too much about it. For me," he said, "at least that's not important at this point. Whenever that day comes, or if it ever comes, that's something that I have to deal with." Now, it's worth noting that Ullmark does have some no-trade protection. He still has 2 seasons remaining on his contract that will pay him $5 million per season. In 2023-24, he has a 16-team no trade list, so that would still open the door for 15 teams that he could go with. For next season, it's a 15-team no trade list, and I believe that kicks in on July 1st. Until then, it's a modified or a full no move clause that he has in his contract until July 1st. So that's worth noting. And July 1st, of course, is coming up this weekend. Now, the goalie hugs, we all love him. We know him. Jim Montgomery said the goaltending has been superb. Ullmark's season was fantastic. Amazing consistency. Nobody wants to lose the Vezina Trophy winner. And if Bergeron decides to retire, they lose the Selke winner too. Jim Montgomery admitted they had a great year, but they have to do some things differently, and there's likely going to be some changes to the roster. Before we get into that and what else Montgomery said, I will note Ullmark said he is, quote, back in business when it comes to health. He was kind of vague after the series against the Panthers about his health status and how he felt, if he was injured. He did say on Sunday that he had a couple weeks to rehabilitate and recharge mentally and physically, and he is 100%. So that would suggest there was something off both physically and mentally. Obviously, the mental part comes with the losses, being pulled for Game 7, giving the puck away in Game 5. But he did say there was something physically there, which raises questions as to why he was still in the net in Game 6. But well in the past now, and we're celebrating here today because the Bruins, look, we're celebrating so much that I was even able to bust out my The Boys t-shirt because it's worth remembering that this regular season was incredibly fun and the Bruins were so successful, and that is to be celebrated, and we're going to do so tonight because the Boston Bruins are up for all these awards. Coming up after the break, we're going to discuss what Jim Montgomery had to say. Tomorrow, we'll do a recap of what happens at the awards tonight. Begin to look ahead to the draft. The Bruins won't be picking until the third round at this point. If anything else breaks, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for breaking live reaction shorts. So Jim Montgomery, what a story Jim Montgomery is, right? He was highly touted after being hired by the Dallas Stars. Pretty good there. Early dismissal. Went into treatment for some personal issues. Came in, big shoes to fill in Bruce Cassidy, and best regular season in NHL history, and surely that's worthy of a Jack Adams trophy. Next season, the task is going to be a bit difficult, and he admitted as much by saying, quote, we're going to have to win with less. We all know the cap situation. Things are going to change, but Florida 2 years ago had a much better regular season than they were in the finals. I don't know if they're better or worse, he said, but they got there, and they're happier with their season this year. Once Don Sweeney's done doing his job, I'll know what the roster is, he said. All those questions, they're all balls in the air. We'd like to have everybody back. Love to be able to run it back with the exact same team, but because of the result in the playoffs and because of the cap constraints, it's not going to happen. And we're all going to have to see what the roster looks like in September, end quote. We'd love to have Krejci back. We'd love to have Bergeron back. Again, don't read too much into Bergeron not being present at the NHL Awards. It's likely family related. Jeremy Swayman's due a new contract. So Ullmark acknowledged the possibility that he could be moved. Trent Frederick needs a new contract. There's all these free agents that are unlikely to be brought back, including Dmitry Orlov. Nick Foligno, I would argue, is unlikely to come back. Thomas Nosek. There's going to be a lot of youth. And yeah, the task for Jim Montgomery is going to be much more difficult next season. And we're really going to get to see what he is as a head coach when the team isn't as stacked and there's kind of that need to rebound from the disappointment as well as kind of retool on the fly, incorporating a lot of young players into the lineup, etc. So, you know, it's going to be a tough task. We're all waiting on pins and needles as to whether or not they're going to have their top two centers back, whether or not Tyler Bertuzzi is going to come back, whether or not Ullmark, Matt Grzelcyk, Taylor Hall going to be traded. It's going to be a very different looking. And again, as Montgomery said, we're going to have to win with less. It's going to be a very, very tough challenge for him and the Boston Bruins. But today, we're celebrating. Ullmark is a finalist for the Vezina. Montgomery's up for Jack Adams. Both experiencing their first NHL awards. As disappointing as the season ended, these guys deserve to be celebrated and applauded for the work that they did this past season. Bergeron's likely going to win the Selke. Don Sweeney, I would argue, is likely going to win GM of the year. Pastrnak, unfortunately, the competition's a lot more difficult for him. But tomorrow on the podcast, we will recap in full what happens tonight and bring you all the latest on the black and gold. I just wanted to highlight today Ullmark acknowledging the possibility that there could be movement. Montgomery getting prepared to go into battle with a lot less at his disposal. But again, what they accomplished this past regular season, yeah, it's disappointing how it ended. It's been almost 2 months since Game 7. I can hardly believe that. We're about 2.5, almost 3 months away from training camp, exhibition games. A lot is going to happen over the off season, I should say. So please do smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other.